Morning, everybody. Jay Janindra. So thank you so much for joining our Chai and Chat program, our monthly series where we discuss all things related to Ahimsa in the many ways that we can practice it in our daily lives. And it's actually called Chai and Chat because uh, we encourage people to try and bring your favorite plant-based chai to our monthly series. And again, thank you so much for joining on this Sunday. Uh, let's go ahead and start our talk. And Piyush, if you can start the slides. Yeah, so I wanted to welcome everybody to our Chai and Chat program and wanted to go over the agenda where this will be the flow of our program today. One of the most important things to remember is that the talk, while it is a panel discussion, we want it to be more of a conversation between the panelists and then between you and each other as well as the panelists. We'll start off with the Navkar mantra, then we'll describe who we are, who the Jaina Ahimsa Eco-Vegan Committee is. We'll describe and define what is an Ahimsa awakening. Many of you may have been hearing about it for the first time, but it's something that is the focal point of our discussion today. We'll introduce our speakers, tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll just jump into the conversation. At the end, make sure you stick around. We'll have some closing remarks, but we have a very beautiful living Ahimsa Awakening story map where you can read stories from, excuse me, read stories from other people who have had their Ahimsa Awakenings, share a little bit about our upcoming events, and then open it up for some Q&A. So with that, I'd like to welcome Pramoda Chitrabhanu to say the Navkar mantra.
Om Namo Arihantanam. Om Namo Sitanam. Om Namo Ayariyanam. Om Namo Uvachayanam. Om Namo Lui Savvasahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Savva Pavapanasano Mangalanam Cha Sapesim Padamam Havai Mangalam Padamam Havai Mangalam.
Thank you, Pramoda Ben. So to start off our call, I wanted to share a little bit about our Jaina Ahimsa Eco-Vegan Committee. What our primary goal is to help people learn, think, and act to see how how we apply ahimsa in our daily lives so that we can live in a more compassionate, maybe plant-based and sustainable way in harmony with the world in which we live. So that's a bit about our committee. Next slide. So I wanted to share what an ahimsa awakening is, right? So the topic of our discussion today is Ahimsa Awakenings across generations. But it's important to know what is an Ahimsa Awakening as we are defining it. So an Ahimsa Awakening is a moment when we open our eyes and maybe our hearts to recognize that something in our thoughts, our choices, and our actions might be causing harm, even unintentionally. And more than that, it's actually a turning point, which is what we'll hear about today and then discuss in more detail. It's a moment of awareness that inspires us to realign our choices with our values, and especially the value of ahimsa, compassion, and respect for all living beings. So with that, I'd like to welcome our three panelists. We have Kanvi Shah, who is a part of YJA. We have Pramoda Chitrabhanu, someone who doesn't need any introduction. And then we have Sunny Jain also, who many of you know, who is in a way representing YJP, but more than that, all three of our panelists are representing three uh, distinct generations that have somehow come to ahimsa and to living ahimsa in their lives. So it's important to us to kind of get that perspective that all three of these people are representative of many people who have had some internal insight into how they apply ahimsa and how they can actually better apply ahimsa. So let's go to the next slide. I want to share a little bit about our panelists. You can read a little bit about Kanvi here, but I wanted to share a little bit more about each of the panelists. I actually met Kanvi at the Jain Leadership Forum where we initially connected. She's doing some amazing work. As you can see, she's the director of project development, lives in the DC area, teaches Pathshala. She's also part of an interesting project at YJA, which is how we connected, something called Plated. And you'll hear more about that. We're going to be releasing some collaborative Jain vegan Parisian cooking videos, along with somebody else on the call here, Praveen Baiturakia. So I wanted to give a shout out to him as well. And um, Kanvi and I interacted in a way that we just became instant friends. And then I learned about her story. So we needed to bring her on to this discussion. Sunny Jain, we've been friends for the last 5 years. He is the former chair of this committee and now is an integral part of uh, advancing our committee in other ways. In addition to being in the committee, he's involved with the Jain Ahimsa initiative, as well as being, you can see some of his many accomplishments. He was a former co-chair of YJP. He is a co-founding member of that Jain Ahimsa initiative. He's involved with Jain convention planning, and he's actually working at Goldman Sachs in their global banking and markets division. And Pramoda Ben, she and I met, I would say maybe 15 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, when she and Gurudev uh, Chitrabhanu came to YGP convention and was our keynote speaker. Ever since then, we've been friends, and I learned about her story, which fascinated me, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. She's a person who maybe needs no introduction, but she is a director of Jain Meditation International, serves on the board of PETA India, and she's the author and co-author, excuse me, of many books. And with that, let's get into our discussion. I'd like to invite Pramoda Ben, if you can please share your Ahimsa awakening story and maybe what triggered that awakening.
Thank you, Mayur Bhai, and thank you, Jaina Ahimsa Eco-Vegan Committee, to invite me to share my thoughts with all of you. And I'm very excited to share what brought that awakening in me and how it changed my life completely, my living style and life. It was the summer of in 1995, I had visited Las Vegas with Chitrabhanuji, and we were on a lecture tour there. And the host arranged a meeting of me with friends, American friends. So we met in a restaurant there. And of course, we exchanged our bios, or we just exchange who we are. And they were very interested in knowing more about Jain philosophy, Ahimsa, its practices. And before that, they asked me that the host asked me, what would you like to drink? And I ordered, of course, it was a very hot summer in Las Vegas. So I said, the best choice for me is, and to be safe, I didn't want to eat anything there. So I said, why don't you order a milkshake with vanilla ice cream? And I saw the women folks turning their heads. And I just could not believe what was happening. I said, what happened? What did I say? So then one of the ladies said that with very politeness, that do you take dairy? So I said, yeah, of course. What's wrong with it? So she said that, just I'm very surprised because we wanted to know more about Ahimsa, but you're still taking dairy. And then she went on to explain the cruelty behind the dairy industry and the abuse to the inmates who wait to die in the farms. So then she said that today's dairy industry is becoming a milking machine for the cows, and the cows are tortured, they are abused, they are forced to work, they are confined, they are separated from their families, they are not with their own dear ones and young ones, and then they die. I said, what are you talking about? She said, yes. Why don't you go home and just Google it and find out more about it? I said, sure. But that turned something in me. It was just unbelievable. But the habit is so strong that I kept on drinking and finishing my milkshake. I couldn't waste that because I really wanted to drink it. So habituated to dairy products that I just didn't want to give that up. I finished it. And then they continued that how they are artificially inseminated, they die, they don't live their natural life, and on and on and on. And there was something in me that was churning in my consciousness. I could not sleep that night. And I decided, oh my God, this is what I'm being part of, the cruelty. I'm talking about ahimsa. I'm following so many things, practices. And what am I doing? A five sense being is being tortured. What do I do? But I could not sleep in the night, tossing and turning in the bed. I didn't know because the habit was so strong. I just didn't want to give that up. And yet, I was so much aware, and it just deeply awakened me from within. And I said, oh my God, what am I doing? And in the night, I decided that I have to do something about it. Next morning, we were flying back to New York after staying there for a few days, giving lectures and everything. And came back to New York, and I said, my challenge is to find an alternative for dairy. I said, no, I don't see anything in New York City, in Manhattan, and I've never seen any alternative for dairy. What do I do? How do I replace it? And chai was one thing that I really wanted. So I said, let me go out. I went to a health food store, and I go there all the time to buy the dairy milk. So I went there and asked the manager, do you have anything alternative for dairy? So he said, yeah, we do carry soy milk. I said, yeah. When have you started carrying soy milk? He said, ma'am, it has been here for the last 4 to 5 years. I said, what are you saying? I come here, I've never seen it. But you know what happened? It was the universal force that helped me to find and look at that soy milk. And I picked that container, came back home, and I decided that I have to give up dairy products. So my turning point was when these American ladies made me aware that there's so much violence in taking dairy products. And the universal force helped me. I think it was my conviction. And I always say that ahimsa is not a concept, it is the conviction of our consciousness. Once you're convinced about something, I don't think so that you have to worry about anything. Universe will help you. Nature will help us to resolve the problems and a little bit of our hesitation if we are totally convinced about it. So this is my story. This was my Ahimsa awakening. And since 1995, my husband and myself, Chitrabhanuji and myself, we have been vegan, and I've continued that. And I hope people take something from here and think that just for this life, for many more births to come, we will have to suffer. So think about it. This is something I feel is very, very important for all of us. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Pramoda, Ben, for sharing. Now, we'd like to ask Kanvi if you can share your story and maybe what your trigger point was.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Kanvi. I grew up in Northern Virginia in the greater DC area, where being Jain for me was kind of defined by going to the temple, going to Bachala, and having my Jain family friend group. And on top of that, having a strict diet. I was lucky enough that I had other vegetarian Indian friends at school, so it wasn't ever weird that I was vegetarian. But it was always weird that my diet was a little stricter than everybody else's. I didn't eat eggs. I never brought food with onions to school. Seeing that in a positive way, a really good friend of mine always hated onions, and she was always jealous that my mom made pho without onions. So I at least had a fun side to that. But growing up, I didn't realize I was lacto vegetarian. I didn't know what that meant. I was just vegetarian, and that was stricter than everybody else. One of my favorite anecdotes was when I was 5 years old in my kindergarten classroom. We were doing some sort of activity, and I had decidedly not taken the marshmallows on my snack plate because I knew that I don't eat marshmallows as a vegetarian. My best friend at the time did take the marshmallows. I knocked her plate out of her hand. Um, I didn't understand how could my vegetarianism be different than my best friend's vegetarianism. And that was kind of when I understood I was really a strict vegetarian. And I was living it to the fullest extent that my parents and my family friends, we all knew together. But putting aside that little anecdote, we'll maybe come back to it. We can jump forward to when I was 14 years old. I had just started high school and I was still pretty much very active in JSMW's youth committee, the Jain Center, Jain Society of Washington, of Metro Washington's youth committee. And we used to volunteer at the DC Veg Fest. We used to have our own booth there where we served different types of dals to show people like this is a like a vegetarian vegan protein that you can have in your life. This is maybe the second or third Veg Fest I had been to. So it was always really fun because while I wasn't vegan at the time, I didn't eat eggs. So it was really cool to see all the businesses that would serve vegan cake and cookies because as a 14-year-old, that's what I was always looking forward to. Um, and there was one booth that time I went to, and they were an animal rights activism group. I actually don't even know which one. But they were running this gimmick that was like, hey, we'll pay you $1 if you watch this video. Um, and so me and my friends, all being young, we went ahead and watched the video. Um, it was a very exposing video of both the dairy industry, the egg industry, just in general, all of the animal product industries, where you really got to see the abuse that happens to animals in all of these um, factory farms. And at the end of the video, it asked, what will you do to do your part? It was very simple. It had like a touch screen and there was three options. Like, could you go vegan once a week? Could you go vegan 3 times a week? Could you go vegan 1 week a month? And I looked at that and I was like, I could be vegan once a week. I actually probably am already, but just not consciously. So I clicked once a week and I was like, okay, this is my new thing. I can do that. Um, I gave them $1 back to the organization. I told them that they definitely need it more than I do. Um, and it was simple to me from that day. I went home and I told my parents, like, I'm going to buy almond milk to drink once a week. But if I was drinking almond milk once a week with my cereal, why don't I just drink it every single day with my cereal? And slowly it made sense to me that if I was going to be vegan once a week, I could just be vegan all 7 days of the week. And during that freshman year of high school, it was a process for me. There were days where there was free pizza after school and I hadn't brought lunch or dinner. And I had to debate between whether I'm going to eat this pizza or am I going to wait till I go home to eat. There was also this debate that at home, we still cook with ghee, we still cook with yogurt. I did have to support my dad. He had seen the horror of the dairy industry 20 years before that and kind of had dropped a milk out of his life in that sense. But there wasn't a conscious, I'm vegan because it makes sense as a Jain person. And I think I followed that thought process a little bit further by participating in the Jane Academic Bowl for many years. I was a big jab kid, if anyone knows about that. And I got to learn about the different types of beings and this hierarchy of G's that we have with the 5 sense beings, the 1 sense beings. Um, and to me, it was simple. I used to just think about the idea whenever anyone was like, oh, being vegan is so hard. I was all I could say when I was 14 and often even now is that to me, I'm vegetarian to minimize my violence in the world. I don't want to create violence toward 5 sense Jeeves. So why wouldn't I be vegan? Toward 5 sense Jeeves, I can have less violence. Um, and so in the last 12 years since I made that choice of let's just have a little less violence in a way that's acceptable. I went through college. I am now a young adult experiencing life, both on my own, at home with my friends, going out to eat. It's been a full journey, whether it's a dietary choice, um, or now it's like a clothing choice. Now it's a um, figuring out if I want to buy a certain type of product because it has a certain type of animal product in it. And those types of choices really um, guide my journey now because the dietary choice seems easy now. So as the 26-year-old, I have moved out into the world. I eat vegan at all of anywhere I go. I cook vegan, and I'm really excited that I get to share this and do this talk with all of you. Just with my guiding principle that is, I want to do less violence in the world. So why wouldn't I be vegan if I was just vegetarian? Um, Going back to my little anecdote, though, something I have been thinking a lot more about is that this idea of anikantavad, and there are different types of vegetarians, and we do live in a world where everyone around us is different than us. So a big part of my journey now is extending this what seems like it should be natural to all of us Jain people, and that's how we learn in all of our pachalas to treat everyone with kindness and treat other people with kindness. We don't always think about the animals. I think it's now time for me that I've taken my vegan lifestyle to a point that it's easy for me. It's time to focus back on people. And so that's where I'm at in my
Mm. Great. Thank you so much, Kanvi. I loved your story, and especially about how it shows up in our everyday decisions and how we apply it, not just in our food choices, but in so many other ways. And we'll get to that a little bit later. So with that, I'd like to welcome Sunny. Can you please share your story, and then a little bit about what was your trigger moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason and everyone, and thank you all for kind of joining this conversation. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their plant-based chai. I have an oat milk latte, so not necessarily chai, but I think it'll work for this session. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I grew up in Houston, so I'm a first-generation American Jain. Um, I grew up going to Bachala, so my parents used to drag me every Sunday to the Jain Society of Houston, and that's where I, pretty much went to Bachala, had Jain friends, and grew up as a Jain. Um, Very early on, I remember my mom really worked hard to try to instill that idea of compassion and empathy towards other beings. For example, even like there was a bug in the room, instead of stepping on it, we would try to move it to the side. So I think that was something that was always inherently something I grew up with, which I think a lot of, other Jains, in this group have probably resonate with. Going into college, I remember I kind of lost a lot of that alignment with Ahimsa. I think I was, vegetarian, really just to be vegetarian, just from the word of it. And outside of that, I was almost just living for myself. And so I was quite a stubborn guy. And so someone would tell me that, oh, Sunny, this has gelatin in it or this has eggs in it. And I remember that I used to actually be upset, like, oh, you just ruined this food for me. Why'd you tell me, right? And so I had a very different kind of way I was living. Um, and then I remember like there was a Ahimsa awakening moment for me. And so for me, it was coming across a video of um, an animal slaughter footage. So it was a very graphic, very troubling video, which just showed how animals were being treated in the modern animal agriculture industry. Um, I've always heard stories about it. So, I would hear like aunties say that, oh, this is what happens to them. And I used to think that they're probably exaggerating. It's really not that bad, or maybe they're adding stories to it. But when I actually saw the videos for myself, I realized that what they say really does happen. And I felt a mix of many different emotions. I remember feeling anger. I felt upset, like, why is that person doing that to the animal? I felt sadness. I felt grief for the animal. What is the animal going through? And then I felt upset that why is my money being used to support this industry? And I remember all these emotions happening at once, and it was all due to a single video that was on mute, so I didn't even have the sound on, but it was enough for me to think that, you know, when I get home, I want to like really rethink how I'm living. And so I had a conversation with my mom, and surprisingly, my mom had a very similar kind of experience where she was also thinking about how can we kind of live more in alignment with our values. And so soon after, me and my mom decided that, we're going to make changes to our lifestyle where we're going to remove animal products from our household and try to live a life that reduces the suffering that we cause to animals. Um, Soon after, my dad, he's like, oh crap, he doesn't cook. So he's like, oh, I guess I'm vegan too. And so it was me and my mom and then my dad. And then finally my sister joined in as well. And so we became like this vegan family in the Jain Society of Houston, one of like a few Jain families there. But all in all, I think this aspect, which I think we're going to talk about like in deeper detail, was part of what has shaped my life, I think for the better. And we'll talk about how, it may feel like you're kind of restraining yourself, you're inconveniencing yourself, but I would love to kind of highlight how it's added more fulfillment in my life and how it's kind of changed the way I look at things, which I know we'll go further into. So I'll kind of stop there. Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Sunny. One of the things that stood out for me and what you said is about the moment that made you think and then rethink, right? It's about realigning ourselves, reevaluating who we are, in alignment with our beliefs. And so I want to start the discussion at this point. So again, the format is going to be, we're going to start off with asking questions, initially directed towards one of the panelists, and then uh, invite the other two panelists to also share their thoughts, any answers to the same question. And then, in addition to that, in our chat group for our audience, please share questions as you think of them. And we'll ask these questions to any of the panelists as you share them. And again, at the end of it, we'll have open Q&A where you can actually talk. But please, this is meant to be interactive. So feel free to ask your questions in the chat. And let's start off. So with that, I'd like to start off with Pramoda Ben and ask you to share your thoughts on, did the awakening, that your story that you shared, create any type of initial discomfort or denial? And in addition to that, how did friends and family react? All right. I mean, sometimes we make these changes in our lives, and then people around us see these changes. Yeah, that can be an interesting insight into how your change is being received by the people around you. And then lastly, what was the process like? So once you made a decision, and again, it doesn't have to be just food, but it's about all the other ways that we can live with ahimsa. So what was the process like? So Pramodaban, can you please share?
Yes, sure. Uh, in the beginning, it was very difficult, and I was definitely for few days on a denial state. I didn't know how to handle it, and I was oscillating that did I make a right decision? Did I do what I needed to do? So there was lots of thoughts going on in my mind, and it was very difficult. But then one day in my samayik and meditation, I was reflecting and I thought that this is not going to get me anywhere because I have made the decision. I have to stick by it. And the reason why I've made this decision is that I'm giving freedom to so many lives and not being part of any kind of violence or hurt through my thoughts, words, or deeds. So it's a greater benefit for me rather than thinking about my uh, taste buds. So then I think totally I came out of my meditation and my samayik, and I felt that I think I made the best choice in my life. So that made it easy. Now going back to the family members and friends, uh, friends, I think because when I made the decision, I was in America. So it was not that difficult, but the family people were in India. So definitely I had lots of challenges because there were no alternative to dairy products. So for few days, we had to drink black tea if we were wanted to. So that was a challenge. And wherever we went, families and friends could not understand what this whole thing was. But I felt that it's a very positive thing that now we have a chance that when they ask questions, we can explain to them why we have become vegan. So in that way, we can educate people. So it was becoming easy and easy. And the best thing was that when we became plant-based and started taking plant-based things, something in the consciousness changes and you emanate such positive and loving vibrations that speaks louder than whatever you teach anyone. And I think that was one of the things that touched many people who came in touch with both of us. So that was the very lovely feeling that now you live a life where you are not part of that violence, and you are not causing any pain to any living beings. And one thing came to my mind that if I know that I don't want to suffer, so I don't want to cause others to suffer. So this is the reaction that I got from my family members and my friends.
Great. Thank you, Pramodaban. I want to invite Kanvi and Sunny to add any thoughts on that question.
You go ahead.
Okay, sure. I'll start.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Pramodan, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think one thing that like people often think about when they're, trying to transition and try to live a more ahimsic lifestyle is the inconvenience of their day-to-days, right? So there's suddenly foods that I can't enjoy. There's there's social activities that I won't be able to be a part of the group. You're almost taking a stand that puts you outside of the majority of the group, right? And so, and there's studies that show that the number one reason people aren't able to kind of make that transition away from animal products is because of social pressure. So it's actually not nutrition, it's not because of price, but it's really because of the social attitudes towards this lifestyle and what they have to deal with. And so one thing that I've personally, kind of shared, and of course, Ganvi, Pramoda, feel free to add, is that the way I look at this is, from a Jain perspective, is Jainism has always been about restraint. So we think of ruts, we take vows, right? And so Jainism has always inspired us to push ourselves physically, to push ourselves mentally, to push ourselves spiritually. Imagine sitting there doing samayik, right? Imagine how much mental will it takes to do that. Or if we're doing fasting, right? During Pajushin, we're fasting. These aren't easy things, right? But the way like my Jainism tells me is that when we do restrain ourselves, that we actually do find more fulfillment, that we are able to enjoy the things that, maybe if I'm not eating a cookie every day outside that contains eggs in it, the day I do get a vegan cookie, I definitely cherish it more greatly, right? And given that there's so many alternatives that do exist, that inconvenience that we imagine really isn't as much as it is. But of course, when it comes to the initial discomfort, things that we will experience, um, imagine you're with a group of friends, everyone orders a pizza, and you're kind of the person sitting there not able to eat it, right? In times like that, I try to remind myself on why I decided to make that change in the first place. And when I remind myself that this lifestyle isn't for myself, this is for beings that are beyond me. It's for a cause that's greater than myself. It helps me kind of understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And people apologize, Sunny, I know you can't have this. And I'll tell them, please don't apologize. Like I know what I signed up for. This is for myself and this is for beyond myself, right? It's I'll pause there. I don't know, kind of your promoter then if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think that's beautiful. I think especially the social pressure is very difficult. And I would go beyond that. It's not even just your friends, even just if you're living in a home, like, I mean, I'm happy that your whole family is vegan, right? But even at my house, it's not that everything is vegan. So sometimes there's just a discussion about like, this is inconvenient for me. And so this is like, it's inconvenient for the person who's cooking, or it's inconvenient for the fact that like we all aren't eating the same food. Um, and those types of things, those conversations will constantly happen. But I really, really like how Sunny put it, is that it's a choice that we're making. It's for the greater good. And it's a choice I'm happy to make. And I'm happy to like cater towards it. I think for me, like the discomfort sometimes comes from I sometimes people with the same values as me, my other Jane friends, and when we don't agree, I'm sometimes confused, and I think this is a big part of like empathy. And I'm just like, don't aren't we on the same page though? Like, don't we believe the same things? And so I think that is at the point like where I am at. But I will say something I've talked about with my other vegan Jane friends is in whenever we hang out with our group of people who have the same values as us. A big discussion is like cheese, though, right? Like cheese is like we all love cheese. Like, oh my gosh, like the amount of emotional connection that our entire society has to cheese. And honestly, when I'm a vegan, my favorite food was cheese. I'm still gonna say my favorite food sometimes is cheese, but I've just found ways to replace that in my life. And with the other friends that I have, often a discussion we have is like, okay, so you say you can be vegan but cheese? Okay, be vegan but cheese. And so I think that's the whole movement here, is that um, think about reducing your harm. Like, why are you even leading the lifestyle you are at this point? And that's kind of where I'm coming from, where my thought process is always coming from. Like we can just do more if it's about the greater good. It doesn't have to be everything. Uh,
Um, Thanks, Kanvi. And there was a question on the chat. Maybe I'll just recite it. So Purna ji was asking that, there are some classes or events that have materials that are not vegan, like, leather or feathers. And is it wrong for me to say that I don't want to go because of these non-vegan materials?
Don't want to go where? Go.
Go to some events or
Ah,
places where the materials are non-vegan, like leather or feathers in the event, right?
yeah.
And so her question is it wrong to say that I don't want to go to these events
No,
because of the use of non-vegan materials that
yeah,
are
yeah.
common?
No, I don't think so. It's a fantastic thing that we are not promoting those kind of things and that social circle because we don't believe in it and there is violence. So we don't want to be part of it, even by participating in those kind of events. So that's a great thing.
If I can add one thing to that, and it's kind of going on the back of what Kanvi said as well. So when we talk about applying ahimsa in our lives, right? It's not always black and white. Sometimes it is gray area. There's a spectrum of things, right? And so for me personally, and for a lot of those that follow like the vegan philosophy, the idea is you do what is possible and as practical. And there's a very kind of like concise definition on what is considered vegan, right? And so ultimately, uh, you do the best you can, and there's certain avoidable harms, right? So the food that I eat, the clothing that I'm wearing, the activities I partake in. Instead of going to a zoo, I go to an animal sanctuary. Instead of wearing like leather or silk or wool, I'll wear a non-animal product instead. Those are actions that are in our direct control, things that we can do. Whether it feels like it's an inconvenience or not, it is something we can do. There's other harms that may be considered unavoidable or maybe more gray area. So, they talk about, even like the car we drive, in animal agriculture, there's certain practices that hurt animals, and then medicines, for example, right? So there's certain things that may be difficult in our day-to-day to be able to avoid that. And so I think to that question and to maybe all these questions, I'll kind of take what can be said, right? Do what you can, do what makes sense. If you're able to go that next level and say that I'm going to take a stand by not going to this class for these reasons, I think it's very applaudable. If you decide that you're going to this class, but you still have that moral kind of centering on why you're doing it, I think that's fine as well. I think ultimately we're all trying to be the best we can, and so I wouldn't be hard on yourself for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think, Sunny, the what I feel is that, sorry, Kanvi,
Mhm.
that it also depends upon your age, like people like us, we can avoid all these social kind of functions and not be part of it. But you all are young and you cannot make that completely black and white. So that gray area is there. So you can definitely make a choice and try to not participate, but sometimes you do have to do that. That's also, I think, acceptable because it's a part of your culture right now, and we are now past all these things. And Purna, the person who asked, I know her very well. We all are around senior citizens, so we can avoid these kind of things if we need to.
Yeah. For sure. I think I completely agree with that idea that like at that point in your life, you can also put your money into making it better, right? Like if you have the money and the means to, advocate for these events to change, that's also like a great way. Um, instead of just saying no, then maybe you can do a little bit more if you have the means to change something. Um, I think I would just add a little bit. Another guiding principle I had for a long time. I think I've transitioned into being like because I'm a young adult now, I can make these choices by myself. But um, I used to when I go to a friend's house or I go to like an auntie uncle in my family friend group, if they've cooked specifically for me and it's Jain food, and maybe they use ghee making it, or they use yogurt in making it. I would weigh like the harm in the situation. Am I going to hurt them, who is also another 5 sense living being that has complex emotions and they have made food for me? Or like in this moment, should I like just stick to my principles? And it's like kind of an ego battle. So I think in like those moments, if they've made food specifically for me and stuff like that, I definitely used to weigh those choices and eat the food because that is out of love and care for another human being. And so I think there is that principle applies here where it's like I didn't go vegan to hurt humans either. So I think there is like a little bit of that.
And thanks for sharing. And just to add, it's also, I mean, if let's say there's such an event, right? It's also an opportunity maybe to have a conversation with the host. Again, to not be confrontational, but sometimes I have found conversations in really weird settings or unusual settings wherein I found that the other person is quite receptive actually, and they're like, "Oh, I have never thought about this. Tell me more." Like it could be the cab driver, right? Or anybody really. So yeah, it could be a good opportunity as well to have a conversation. And for example, let's say I'm at my workplace and maybe there's something which is non-vegan, like, or maybe I get in my in my coworker's car and they have leather seats or something. But yeah, I like Sunny said, I would weigh the opportunity versus if me traveling with them has the opportunity of having a conversation, then I would take that maybe because the seat is already made. Me going or not going does not really cause more leather to be produced or something. So yeah, but of course we might not want to appreciate it, or give anumodna for it, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And
uh,
actually, so Piyush, if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly add something that was, I just
mhm.
feel is so relevant right now, Kanvi, to what you just said. Just yesterday, I met somebody randomly online. I went to go pick up something, and they offered me tea. And this was a completely, stranger. It was an American guy, older Caucasian person who connected me to somebody new who's Indian and living in Japan. They offered me tea. I kindly, declined, but that opened that conversation, to what Piyush said. It's an opportunity. But I also love how you're thinking. I love how you're thinking about how these people who made this, food for you made it with love, made it with care and concern. So you're treating them and seeing them with that Ahimsa lens also. So thank you for sharing that. I think Piyush, did you want to take one more question? Uh,
Yeah, so there was one more question in the chat earlier. I think by Samyak ji, if I'm not wrong, and his question was, maybe I'll try to read it. Sorry, it was by Sanjay ji. So his question is, being vegan should be like a no-brainer for Jains. So why is there reluctance in our community, even though there's so much hinsa in the dairy industry? Yeah. Um, if I don't know if Pramoda, if you want to.
Yeah, I would like to share my thoughts on that. That his question is very relevant, but many people really don't know what is dairy industry and what is going on in dairy farms and dairy industry. So educating them, I think, would be a great choice to do that. And it is difficult for people, uh, it was difficult for me, even because I was taking dairy products all my life. And then all of a sudden, when you get to know something and you want to weigh it, how violent it is, and do you want to have that thing in your life and in your body? So you make a decision that time. But sometimes it's hard for everyone to make this kind of choice and make a decision because they really don't know what's going on. So I like what Paul McCartney said, that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would become a vegetarian. But we don't know what comes on our plate because we can't see it. And especially dairy, the cow is not killed. That's what they say. The dairy, the milk is there. The cow is not killed. So the cow is just gives the milk and we use the milk. So they cannot connect that two things together, that nowadays, these are not just cows who are giving milk, but the baby calves are taken away from them. They suffer so much, and their lifespan is shortened because of their on and on pregnant. They become pregnant and then they give dairy milk. So people have to connect that. They have to know what it is and understand that really taking milk has causes so much violence. So it's just not overnight thing. there has to be some kind of understanding and education, and people have to read materials, see small little clips about the slaughterhouses. I think then they will be able to make a better choice. This.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pramoda. And I think in the interest of time, I'd love to actually ask this one question to all the panelists and maybe start off with Sunny, is Ahimsa, so we're talking about Ahimsa and how we um, practice it, right? Is Ahimsa simply about avoiding harm, or do you believe it's sometimes that requires us to actively intervene when we see suffering? So, Sunny, if you can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a profound question. And it goes into, I think, a much deeper concept within Jainism about how we view ahimsa, you know. And so it is possible for someone to, you know, walk on the street, see an animal suffering, right? So imagine like a scenario of animal suffering, and then just walk by and say that, I didn't cause the harm myself, therefore I'm still ahimsic, right? And so I think a lot of people view ahimsa in the view of neutrality. So in my personal life, I don't cause the harm, therefore, um, I'm being ahimsic, and that's kind of my obligation. But there's this new concept known as applied ahimsa, which I've heard a few people say, and it's the idea of actively going out there to help others in need. And there's a few Jain stories that I think about that I think really resonates with this. One Jain story is the story of Parshvanath Bhagwan in his past life, where he saw that there was these two snakes that were caught in the logs of a fire during a Hindu ritual. And so at that moment, he could have said that, I have nothing to do with it. I can kind of just stay back. And, I'm still practicing ahimsa. But instead, what he did is he actually disrupted the ritual. And to the resistance of the people doing the ritual, he disrupts it, says that, hey, there's a snake burning, and tries to rescue the snake. He received backlash. People were upset that you've interrupted this, and but he still did that, and trying to rescue the snake. And so when I think of that idea of ahimsa, it's the idea of not just being ahimsic ourselves, but also trying to go out there and trying to help other beings in need. I think there's, many other examples within our Jain childhood stories that kind of show this. There's Neminath Bhagwan that, he saw the animals that are in cages during his wedding, and he actually went out and he did the physical act of releasing the animals, right? So once again, he didn't say that these were ordered for me, but I had nothing to do with it. He actually went out there to try to help the animal. And then, of course, Mahavraswamy was widely regarded as a animal rights icon, during his time. And alongside him, there were many, Jain spiritual leaders that tried to convince the kings of their time to ban animal slaughter in their kingdom. And so I think there's a lot that Jainism teaches us about being active when it comes to ahimsa. And so I'll kind of pause there, but that's kind of how I view that.
Yeah, I think Sunny put it really well, and I love the connections to all our Jane stories. I mean, these are all stories that we grew up hearing in bachelor class, and you don't realize how much advocacy is part of the story. It's not just a self journey. While that is a large part of Jainism, is that journey that we all take by ourselves and our souls, and the karma that we bond and the karma that we get rid of. Um, I will say that the applying ahimsa in my life has been very personal up until probably the last few years of my life. Actually, recently I was able to make it out to Love and Arms Animal Sanctuary, and I feel like that was the first place where I felt someone like who is living there or the people who work there, they are realizing what ahimsa means to them in their entire life. Like every single day of their life, that is what they're practicing. Um, in a com it feels like a full realization of their own values. And so I would say that that is maybe where I would lead Ahimsa. And it doesn't have to be only animals. Maybe the animal part, the vegan part is your journey, personal journey. Maybe there's another way, there are another group of people. There are plenty of people suffering on our planet. There are other ways to show Ahimsa, whether it is, um, donating money to those groups or going out and volunteering. To help those people. There's so many ways to show ahimsa. And so figure out which part of your journey is like personal and like is as much as you can do, while the other parts of your journey are like as much as I can, as many people as I can reach, or as many people being all Jeev, actually, as much Jeev as I can.
Thanks, Kanvi. And actually, since you mentioned Loving Arms Animal Sanctuary, and this was a really nice conversation. I would like to segue into something for a bit because we are at the top of the hour, and then we'll get back into conversation. I know you have to drop off at 9 a.m. Pacific, but I'll quickly, if it's okay, I'll share my screen. I just want to share like if so we'll continue the discussion, but if you want to connect with us, right, before you drop off, like this is our website jainaevc.org, and you can email us at communications@jainaevc.org for anything, right? And if you want to sort of um, have questions for us, or want to work with us, volunteer, anything at all, just email us, and we are looking at emails, right? And we do things like we do awareness events at Jain centers to spread the information, so that we can have more awakenings. We do virtual tours of sanctuaries like Loving Arms Animal Sanctuary that you just mentioned, and we of course do this monthly speaker series. So that was that. And I'll also do one thing. I just want to share this sort of project we have going on. So if you go to our website, we have a page for Ahimsa Awakenings, right? And this is just so that people can share their own stories, and we can share our learnings, get inspired, and more so to gain strength to cross any hurdles, or anything that we might face. Yeah, feel free to explore. There's a lot of stories on this map from various locations. So, for example, if you see here, there's stories by various people, and yeah, I sometimes go and can spend just half an hour reading stories and feeling quite quite good. Yeah. Also, since Kanvi mentioned sanctuaries, you can also find many sanctuaries on the map. So there's a tab for reading stories, or finding sanctuaries in the US. So if you're visiting a place and if you just want to check if there's a sanctuary nearby, yeah, just feel free to. There's also rescue stories which we are building right now. There's just a few rescue stories we have added from Lavinam's sanctuary, but yeah, we'll be adding a lot more rescue stories here. Yeah, so that was something I just wanted to share. I'll stop sharing and I'll give it back to Mayur. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
So yeah,
just a quick one, sorry, Bish. For those that are not familiar with animal sanctuaries, did you want to share what that is?
Oh yeah. So animal sanctuaries are places where animals who have been at, say, they just got out of. So there are very few rare cases wherein an animal might escape a slaughterhouse or a farm, and wherein they are destined for slaughter, right? Or they are just being confined or something like that. So there are very few who escape that out of the billions in the US. So recently, for example, there was a story of a piglet whose name is Heidi, and she was just 3 weeks old, and she happened to escape the. So there's the transport truck that takes them to the slaughterhouse, right? So she happened to escape that truck somehow and fell, right? And then somebody spotted her, and Loving Arms got in touch, and they sort of rescued her, got them to Loving Arms, and they get a second life here, right? Really, a life wherein they can, experience freedom, experience love, pleasure, everything. She's being well taken care of. And it's just really a second chance for her, and she would experience life. So those are sanctuaries, places where animals can live their full life freely, without confinement, without any sort of pain, torture, without being treated as commodities, and they have their own individual personalities. So yeah. uh, yeah, that was about sanctuaries. I don't know if you want to add anything, but yeah. hmm and we need more of those, by the way. There's very few. There's many who are rescued, but there's very few sanctuaries. So yeah. hmm
Yeah. Thank you, Piyush. So I want to emphasize the story map. This is a beautiful campaign. Just like you're reading a book. I mean, as Piyush said, it's amazing to hear and to read the stories as you kind of experienced here, hearing the stories. And so we want you to read, we want you to share, because stories can inspire more stories. So please check that out. And given that we're talking about the generations, kind of a topic of different generations, how they connect to Ahimsa, one question that I think is really something that I want to personally hear about is, what do you think, Pramodaben and Sunny, and Kanvi have to leave our call, but anyone in the audience. So at this point, I'd like to open it up, Sunny and Piyush, can we open it up for everyone to ask questions? But I'll start off with asking both of you, and then in the audience, please feel free to just talk, you know, interact with us, ask questions as you feel like it. What is the challenge facing your generation when it comes to practicing ahimsa? So in a way, what message would you give to people of your generation who who may benefit from maybe some knowledge, insight that you feel like you can give them? Pramoda, if you can share.
Yeah. Uh, First of all, I feel that our generation, it is becoming very difficult for them to give up dairy, especially because it's an old habit that people cannot just give up like right away. And as I said previously also, that they really don't know how the milk is obtained and what happens at the dairy farms. So to expect too much from them, and I can understand how difficult it is, because something to bring change in your life, it is very fearful. To replicate the things that you're so used to, it's difficult. But I would say that if we are on our spiritual journey and we want to avoid being part of any kind of violence through our thoughts, words, or action, this is the time that people have to go deep within themselves and find out where they are causing violence and how they are acquiring negative karmas or papa in their life. So that can make them change. But you need to have some kind of spiritual background. Just doing rituals and ceremonies and calling yourself that you are a Jain, I think that's not enough. It stops them from growing. But if you connect yourself with all the living beings around you and understand their pain and feel empathetic towards them, then there will be some change that you can bring in people's life. And I feel that, as Sunny Jain had mentioned once, that it's a restraint, that the tapa that we do by giving up this dairy products is kind of a tapa. It's a restraint, something that one has to control. It's a discipline. And when you do that, it empowers us. So when I go to social functions, especially in my family, extended family or faraway family connections, and when I'm not eating what they are eating, I feel very empowered that I could control myself not to eat these things because for a greater cause, because I'm not part of that violence that the animals are suffering. I don't want to take that share of their suffering because it will disturb my spiritual journey to go further. But this kind of awakening has to come from within. And you can be a plant-based person and be vegan, but if people don't want to take in, they will never take it. You can have many family members around you, but still, if you are not awakened and it doesn't touch your consciousness, it's very hard for them to change.
Thank you, Pramoda and Sunny. Did you want to add?
Uh, yeah, no, Pramoda, man, that was really profound, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think for a lot of people, it's not usually a single moment, but it's a collection of moments that lead them to finally make that change. And so we often call it the path to that Ahimsa awakening. So for example, maybe you meet someone that's living that lifestyle and you're like, wow, that's a really nice person. And it kind of exposes you to that information. And then maybe you're scrolling on the internet and you find this amazing vegan recipe. You're like, wow, I need to definitely try that. And then maybe months later, you go to like a restaurant and you order something that's plant-based, right? And so ulti like the idea is that over time, through these collection of this different experiences, there will be something in you that will eventually lead you to that path where you're able to make that change. And for some people, it could take years. For some people, it's overnight, right? So everyone has kind of their own journey. And the way I look at it is there's no interaction that is wasted or is not important. Even if someone never ends up not ever making those changes in their personal life, perhaps they'll look at um, someone in the future they run into that follows that path and they'll be nicer to them. Or maybe their kids will maybe decide one that they want to give up animal products and then they'll be nicer to their kids as well, right? So I think it's really about planting that seed of awareness. And that's ultimately how I look at everything we do is we just plant that seed of awareness. We try to live by example and we hope that we're able to positively impact the people around us.
I want to just add something here uh, that many times I've heard people around me who are following the path of veganism and seeing people who are not being very uh, condensed. They they don't appreciate them and they put them down, and they have that kind of a feeling of disrespect, and they don't want to respect them because they are not at par with what you are doing. And I think that is the greatest himsa that we are causing, because each person has their own journey to accomplish, and there comes a time when that transformation comes. But we are not the one to judge anyone's personal life, and have that compassion, respect them, love them as much as you love others who are on your path, and be very kind to them and help them walk the journey wherever you can.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Um, Thanks, Pramodaben. So I would like to, anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and, ask, yeah, anything at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they may need to raise their hand, Piyush. And so I guess if they raise their hand, we can
Uh-huh.
unmute them.
Okay, yeah, I see that Bharti ji has raised her hand. Bharti ji, if you can, yeah, if you can unmute, thanks.
So first of all, I would like to thank for this beautiful initiative you all have started. I'm very new to Jain vegan journey. Since last almost 6 to 8 months, I'm now totally Jain vegan. So my question is that the intensity of cruelty is so much that whatever we are doing is, I feel, just very, very less. So how can we take this to, like, like higher scale for spreading this? How should we do it? Don't you think our efforts are very less compared to the cruelty going on? We should, can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
No.
we can hear you. You're kind of fading in and out, but
Yeah, I
we can
can't
mostly hear you.
understand the
I
question.
think is your Bharti Ben, is your question how can we do more? That the effort is very less, and how can we amplify our effort and our message? Like how can we do more?
Oh,
Bharti Ben,
Now,
if you can
I think
continue.
there is some.
yeah, some signal. But I think Mayor, that was kind of the gist I got as well. And so
Mhm. Yeah.
I can maybe share a few thoughts and then, if anyone else wants to share. But when we think about change, they often characterize change as top down and bottom up. So top down being changes that we can make from a place of influence. So imagine like specifically in our Jain ecosystem, we have the Jaina ecosystem, we have thereafter presidents, we have spiritual leaders. They have the ability to make change because of their sphere of influence. And then the other side of change is the bottom up. So we also refer to that as grassroots change as well. And so that's pretty much individual activism, that's putting up flyers, that's making food for someone around you. And I think both approaches to change is equally important. So you need people at the top to be able to help instill that change. And then you need people at the bottom also working on individual change and changing people around us so that there is support. And so I think we've made a lot of strides in our Jane community, but of course there's a lot more to go, right? And there is pushback, there's people that will kind of maybe not understand this the yeah this thing, yeah, but yeah, that would be my answer.
I think I agree with Sunny Jain, what he's saying, and we have to try to have conversations with people, uh, uh, have this kind of panel discussions. I think that's really very powerful. Each one's story and how one is impacted with the different situations. So that also can help us educating people through leaflets, pamphlets, showing some movies. So these are the things that we can definitely do.
Great. Great. Thank you. We have a question from iPhone 16 Plus, if you can unmute and ask.
Hi, my name is Shashi, and I just recently changed myself to be a vegan, and because of my son and my grandkids. And I agree with Pramoda Ben so much because she has really experience, and she's talking with her experience that we cannot ask anyone to be a vegan is coming from in within. It's so true. It's so true. But I still want other people to know, and I really want Pramoda Ben to travel, to go to all the Jainas temple, give them a talk, show them a video. This is awareness so important, and it's coming from her. It's make big difference because we all senior, we need to do it, and we don't have any more wishes left. We ate so much food, we had all our fulfill is finished. We can be a vegan. Please, Pramoda Ben, come to the Seattle, go to all the temples, give the talk, show them a movie, give your experience in it. This is so important. So important.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Th-
Please. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
your experience is senior experience, and you can do it. And we all needed, we all senior need this input. They are so much uneducated. They don't know. You are right. They say, we are not harming. When I ask them, they say, why are you not drinking milk? The milk doesn't have a problem. I say, no, I know milk don't have any problem. It's how they produce the milk is the problem. So this is the message This is the message. It's so important, so important. And we just cannot talk with this shy group. We have to go out. We have to do it. This is so
Yes.
important for us, because they are so much innocent. They don't know anything. We have to give them is input. And I'm so happy that my son is vegan, and because of him, my grandkids vegan, and I realize, and it's just happened in one day. You are perfectly right. You have to be spiritual. You cannot do because you're doing all the ritual things. You cannot be vegan. It's very hard. You have to have some compassion. You have to have a spirituality. Then you can be a vegan. And don't insert them because they are not vegan. You are exactly right. Because I go to my friend's house for party, they have non-veg food. I still go, have a fun, talk with them. It's so important. You cannot just ignore them because they are not vegan. Otherwise, there
That's
will be prejudice. There will be prejudice with you that you are so stubborn that you are not going to their house because you are vegan. And I have a hard time to explain my friends that don't worry about me. I will bring my oat milk. I will bring my yogurt, at your party, and I'm coming. You don't make anything for me. I'll bring my stuff. They try to buy oat milk for me because of the chai. They will make a dessert for me without the milk. So, they are now also aware that, oh, there's someone is vegan. But I'll try to make sure that they don't have any problem because of me. So I, tell them ahead of time that don't worry, I'll bring my stuff. So that's also very important for us to not
it's
to harm the
so
human
true.
being. Yes.
Yes,
Not
yes,
even
very true.
animal, but not too hard to the human being also
Yes,
hurt. Yes. So thank you. Thank you.
thank
Okay.
you.
And I maybe if I can just add one thing, thanks Sashi when for sharing. Like you said, right? And I would like if to all seniors on this call as well. Let us know. Give suggestions to our committee. Connect with us. And if you want to do something, we'll make it happen. But yes, we need your support and your voice because it is very powerful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I see that Keshal bhai has something to share. Yes. Keshal bhai, can you unmute again? Sorry. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you, Pramoda Ben, Sunny, and Tanvi. Amazing talk. And just to introduce, I am also part of Eco-Vegan committee, and to extend our day-to-day lifestyle, what we can apply. That's what we talked about today. And there is another aspect of it, which is uh, our money, because we work throughout our life, and knowingly or unknowingly, our money gets invested in a company that is causing so much cruelty against the animal. So that is also another angle, I believe so, to look at. But I would like to get the feedback of Pramoda Ben and Sunny also. That would be great.
I think, Kashalba, you're right that we have to use the money and invest in ethically responsible investments where we don't become part of the cruelty or any kind of such investment where violence is involved. So I totally agree. As much as we can be aware of it and try to invest in those fields.
Thank you.
Um, Also, I just want to take a slight detour for just a minute. I just want to announce before everyone drops off, we have the YJP convention, which is just around the corner. It is from October 9 to 12th, and it is going to be in Milpitas, which is in Bay Area, California. So yes, I would encourage everyone to join. I don't know, Sunny, if you want to share something or add to it.
Yeah, actually, if Ronak, I think you might be on the call.
Uh-huh.
If you are, then yeah, Ronak, please share more about the convention. And also, before
Mhm.
he does, it's actually a fully plant-based convention, fully vegan. Uh, so it's in perfect alignment with our topic today. Ronak, if you want to share.
Yeah, thanks, Mayur. First of all, Jai Jinendra, everyone. My name is Ronak Jain, and I'm part of the Young Jain Professionals team. Before I even talk more about the event, I first want to say a big thank you to the panelists and the hosts. So, Mayur, Piyush, Pramoda ji, Sunny, and Kanvi. Like, it is amazing to get this call together, and there is a lot of reflection today on my side as well. Last year, I actually did try going vegan in a very staggered approach, and it was really nice for myself to. Every year, I give up one thing, and last year it was dairy, so it was very nice to try it. This year, my parents were here, so again, it becomes that gray spot where do you let them pamper you with them cooking you food versus you pushing them to switch vegan options. So something again for me to think about and reflect on for this year. So for those who are not familiar, YJP is part of a China organization. We're a sister organization to YJA, and we serve the working professional community. So everyone in their early 20s to 30s to 40s. Last year, we hosted YJP convention in New Jersey in November actually, and that convention was also fully vegan. And again, this year we're excited to scale it to about 300 attendees this year as well, and also make it fully vegan. So again, Mayur and Sunny has greatly supported us, helping us figure out, and Pramoda ji has also supported us financially to make the convention vegan. So we really appreciate it. I'll share some information. So the convention is about careers. So the theme is reinventing your wheel. So really focusing on all the tangents and curves that life throws at you and how to make most of it. So it's going to be full of keynotes, workshops, networking sessions. We have our signature Shark Tank pitch competition, which is $10,000 in price pool. So would highly recommend everyone check it out. And if you're able to make it, would love to see you there. I invited Pramoda ji, but she said she's going to India that time. So otherwise, we would have loved to host you as well. The other thing I want to ask today is if anyone's interested in taking a lab for the convention, right? Supporting serving vegan food to all attendees. Please let us know. We would happy to again discuss with you and share more information. I'll post the link in the chat, and then if any questions, I'll share my contact info as well, so you're able to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thanks,
Great.
Ron.
Yeah. Thank you, Ronak, for sharing. I, YTP is doing some amazing work, in just serving our community, serving the professional community, and then advancing the cause of Ahimsa in going fully plant-based and in the programming that they're going to offer. So I highly encourage you spreading the word about the conference, and we're working with the YGB team in putting in helping with some of the elements as well. So thank you, Ronak, for sharing that. And I think we'll actually conclude the call today. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. I do want to, as a kind of ask Pramoda and Sunny to share any parting thoughts or comments for our audience, and then we'll conclude our call. So, any final messages from Pramoda and Sunny?
Yeah,
Pramoda.
I would like to just ask the audience that please give it a shot. Try it. And it's not that difficult, because at my age, if I can do it, you all can do it. And it just needs a little bit of courage, a lot of conviction. And I feel that when we have so much inner strength, Atma has so much infinite strength that if we decide we can do it, and just look at it that if you go to a doctor and doctor tells you that, hey, you have a cancer and you have to give up these kind of food and you can't eat it, what would we do at that time? We would listen to the doctor because life is precious for us. We want to live long. So we definitely would give up those things that doctor has recommended us. Here we are talking about birth after birth, carrying the burden of negative karmas. For birth after birth, can you imagine how heavy we are getting? And if we know and we understand and feel the pain of other living beings, we are so sensitive to not eating onions, garlic, root vegetables, who are just one sense being. And here this is a 5 sense being who feels the same pain, same sorrow, same torture. And yet we cannot connect with them. We cannot give that thing up where the baby calves are taken away from them. We are being part of cutting their lifespan. So that is Ayushya karma we are building. Then we are taking away the mother from the baby calf. The Antrai karma we are acquiring. And we are not asking the cow, may I take your milk? So it's chori, it's theft. So be aware of it, because we have eaten our births and lives together, we have been eating. Just giving up dairy is not that difficult. And you know, when we became vegan, we didn't have any alternative except just soy milk. And now look at the kind of alternatives that you all have. So you cannot complain that, oh, I can't give up cheese, I cannot give up ice cream, I cannot give up yogurt, because you have all the alternatives to that. So what stops us from being vegan? What stops us? We really need to reflect, really need to think about it, because we are doing good to our own soul, not to anyone else. And we are being kind to animals, but animals, when they suffer, so much sigh, so much pain, so much tears we see in their eyes. So there is an anonymous author. I don't know who that author is, but he said it so beautifully, because I feel that it resonates with me so much, that unseen they suffer, unheard they cry, in agony they linger, in silence they die. Is it nothing to you, O men, ye who pass by? Can we not see their pain? Can we not feel their pain? And we keep on doing same thing again and again and again. So my request to the audience is, please give it a chance. For a week, in Paryushan is coming. In Paryushan, try to give up dairy for a few days, for a week, and you'll see how good you feel. You will see how benefit it is for us, health-wise, ecological wise. Global warming all is caused because of dairy and meat industry. So just think about it. This is my gentle request to all of you.
Thank you, Pramoda Ben. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you to Sunny, Pramoda Ben, Mayur, for making this happen, right? Thanks, everyone, really, for joining on a Sunday morning and spending time. Yes, this is important. And it's really nice to see that all of us could get together virtually on this morning. Yeah. I'll stop the recording now, and yes, we'll end the call.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Jai
Thank you.
Jinendra,
Jai
namaste. Thank you,
Jinendra, Jai
everyone.
Jinendra,
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra, Jai Jinendra.